So two things happened right there. So notice how my arrow is stuck in the middle of nowhere right here. So first and foremost, if you're crouched, you get sneak attack if they don't see you. So when it respawned me, I was back here. Oh, the arrow just disappeared. So if I shoot right now from here, so I was sneaking. See how the arrow just gets stuck in midair? There's a fucked up collider on this crystal formation right here. So it's acting as a collider. So when I respawned, I crouched like I would anyway to get sneak. He didn't see me because I'm behind this structure. So even though I can see him, there's a collider here. Right there. There's a collider. So it's he's not able to see me and I can't shoot him. So I was able to ease around the corner and I was able to shoot him from here. And that's the only reason that worked like that. I was able to get yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, this right here, so this is a perfect example what we were just showcasing here. That right there is the perfect example of low budget indie game development. There's nothing wrong with this because from a fundamental visual perspective, no one is ever going to know that there's a collider here. The only reason I know there's a collider here was because I happened to shoot an arrow and it didn't so there's a box essentially is I if I was in grid mode in the world building tools for Unity right now, there would be a box, like a green box or whatever, like a mesh around this. It might be a cylinder, it might be a triangle, but there's some sort of a structure around this asset. So this crystal right here is an asset. And there may be two of these stuck together, there may be three of these stuck together, but that's an asset that you can take and you can scale up or down. So you can make it look bigger or smaller and put it in different places. So we can look around the room. That asset is used in multiple locations all around this room. It's a 3D asset for those of you who don't know game development. So this is the difference between indie game development and AAA game development. Indie game development, they don't have the manpower or the man hours to bring that. That was the screen tear too that we're seeing. In AAA, you would not have that. There would not be a box collider around that. They would have everything flat against the surface of the asset. They would have it wrapped like a skin. But in this case, they just have a box that's sitting here. Now, we can't see the box, but if you know how game development works and you know how asset placement works in a game engine, then you know that there's a box there. And what our arrows are interacting with right here is said box. And that mob could not see me because I was behind the box. So even though I could see him, he can't see me because I'm behind the box. Getting over here, we're outside of the box. Behind here, I'm behind the box. So that's a really quick and easy example of the difference between AA or indie and AAA. Because in AAA, that would not be allowed to be like that. Yeah, the mesh collider, it's a mesh collider versus a box collider transcend. Yeah, correct. So this is a great little learning thing because this gets into people who will say things like indie game development is so much better than AAA game development. No, it fucking ain't. Because AAA, they have the manpower and the man hours and the budget to fix shit like this so that this doesn't happen. This is an example of where AAA is better than AA. Contextual conversations are important, kids. In some cases, indie development can be better. In some cases, AAA development is going to be better. We talked about this the other day. This game has, I can't mantle on anything. So you get up against a surface where it's too high. I can't mantle on top of that. Whereas a game like Avowed, which has a mantling and parkour system, I would be able to push myself up against this ledge, jump against it, and it would automatically launch my character on top. And then in Stalker 2, we saw this example of where you would need to walk across like the top of a bulldozer, and it would be like, something that was supposed to be like 8 inches wide, and you would be looking down at your character's feet, and it would literally, if you were 1 millimeter off to the side, you would just fall and plummet. And in a AAA game, they will build a collider that extends, or a mesh. They'll build where you can walk, like the nav mesh stuff. They will build that out several inches on either side of that platform so that when your character is walking, there's room for error. I can't remember what game we were playing recently where I looked down at my feet and I was like literally standing off to the side of the beam that we were walking on. I was completely off the beam, but they had created a wide enough space so that players who can't stay on a line and who can't navigate that well aren't penalized for not having like precision when they're running across a beam. That's the difference between AAA and indie, are little things like that. So I'm having a great time with this game, and it's absolutely a phenomenal experience. But this is just a really super easy example of where they have not polished their game because they don't have the budget to do so. So they have left this, I'm going to say, ugly box collider in place, as opposed to meshing it. But yeah, this is one of those perfect examples of indie versus um, and how in most cases people don't know what they're talking about, because I'll see these comments all the time, like, indie development is just so much better because they innovate so much more than AAA. No, no, that's not true. You're making a blanket statement that lacks the contextualization of. But indie games are built with passion and AAA aren't. No, again, not true. There is something back there that I don't know how to get to. The idea that people working on AAA games don't have passion is just so ignorant. The suits ruin everything. That might be true. Suits can ruin things. But that's the contextual part of that conversation. Because in some cases, when you have those mega corporations running game companies, those guys might not even play games. But the people building those games still have passion.